number one gap that CEOs miss is that they're so focused on the money that they're willing to do anything to try and grab an extra dollar off of the table without realizing that it is costing their business way more than $1 for them to be running around doing everything reactive to their team, reactive to their clients, and not actually driving the company forward.
All right, guys. Hey, welcome to another episode of the Practical Wealth Show. Today, we're going to talk about, my favorite subject, business. All right. And getting control of your business. So I have my guest today is Jhana Li. And Jhana, I'm going to have her tell her story, but I'm going to tell it because I'm sure there's more detail than this, but she really specialized in operations, right? And so, Jhana, what I do is when I look at business, I break business down into 3 parts: before, during, and after, right? So before is marketing, attract, capture, nurture.
Yep.
During is doing the
thing,
making the donuts, right? That's operations.
Yeah.
Okay. And then there's after. After could be operations too, but orchestrating referrals. And so to me, you've got to separate it out, look at and break it out and look at how can I get better at every sector. Right.
Yes.
Is because I think business is your best investment. So, one of the things John has told me she does is that by optimizing systems to make sure there's no leakages from the revenue you already have incoming, like to stop giving money away. Right.
Yep.
And so tell me what you tell the story, Ashley, of how you discovered operations 5 years ago, traveling in a converted van. Okay.
Right.
In North and South America. So let's start there.
Okay.
Tell them about yourself. Tell them what I didn't tell them. And let's get into that. And let's talk to people about how to keep more of what they make.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm sure this is the same for many people in your audience, Curtis, that I kind of fell into business, right? Like I didn't study it. I didn't expect to become kind of a business leader. But I was traveling in this van, living full time in this van with my, now ex-boyfriend who was building a company. He was building a digital marketing agency. And I got to see firsthand kind of the entrepreneur's experience because it was happening 2 feet across the table from me every single day in this van. And that is really where I got my kind of crash course. Because you weigh in, you talk through problems together, you start to think about these things. And what was really interesting to me is that the things that I was kind of just intuitively perceiving in his business, the gaps that I was seeing were not the same things that he was seeing. He was seeing opportunities. He was seeing possibilities for new products and new offers. I was seeing, but like, what about this person who's about to quit? What about this, this gap in your system that's like costing you a lot of money, right? I didn't know what I was doing, but these things were intuitively clear to me.
Right.
And so through a series of odd events, I stepped into that business for what was supposed to be like 30 days filling in for someone, and ultimately became that company COO, because once I really got in there, again, not knowing what I was doing, but just intuitively kind of following what made sense to me, I saw so much room for improvement. Like you just said, right? Like these are the gaps in the bucket and someone's got to close them. So I guess I'll take a stab at that. That really set me up to learn what operations is. It set me down a course that ended with me being an operations coach in a community that had 500 plus startup owners in it. And that was really the takeoff moment for me, because I got to learn a lot, read a lot of books, work with a lot of mentors, test these things within 500 different businesses and get the data back from 500 different businesses around what works and what doesn't when it comes to true operational best practices and like effectively scaling a startup. And so that is all the data, all of the knowledge that I have now put into my current business, which is Spyglass Ops. And this is all that we do. We help digital entrepreneurs scale their businesses, scale themselves out of the day-to-day weeds of those businesses through operations.
Okay. So am I digital? Because I'm trying to get out of the operation.
I would say you and I are on a remote podcast recording, right?
Right,
so
right. So
any
we're going to be free
online
consulting for Curtis, right? No,
yeah, online based, I should say, product or service.
Yes. So can you walk us through some of the common revenue leakages that occur in business and how how you address that kind of stuff? Like for start, I'm coming to you.
Yes.
Like,
Where's the
and
money
was it
leaking
and
out of the
Donna fix my life? You
bucket?
know, Jhana,
Yep.
fix my business, right?
Yep.
So,
Yep. So let me bring into alignment something you said earlier and kind of how I think about this, which is the before, during, and after, right?
mhm,
I like to use the metaphor of if your business is a bucket, sales and marketing is like the pipe that is flowing water into the bucket, right? And the goal is to increase the water line. That is growth. That is money coming into the business. At every stage of the process, before, during, and after, there are leaks, right? There's leaks in the pipe that is flowing water into the bucket. There's gaps and cracks and holes in that bucket that is leaking resources and money out as you're
yep,
in the during stage. But one thing that you said is, operations is really the during. I agree with you. Operations is what allows for you to successfully operate the day-to-day of your business, like successfully deliver your product or service. But I actually have a more holistic definition of operations, which is that it is before, during, and after,
yeah,
right?
okay,
There's
mhm,
gaps in your sales funnel. There's gaps in your marketing pipeline
come on now,
where the right operational systems, the right data can actually help you become more effective at acquiring clients. There's certainly gaps and holes in how you're delivering to your clients. And then there's probably gaps or holes where how you're reactivating, offboarding, getting referrals from testimonials from clients. And operations really touches every single part of the business. The way that operations, to kind of answer your question at a high level, and then we can get
mhm,
tactical,
mhm,
is the role of the operator, the unique genius of the operator, is to be looking at the pipe flowing water in, the bucket itself, and identifying those holes and gaps, and then designing solutions to close them. Very simply, that is how operations drives the money pipeline, because the fewer gaps there are, the fewer, like the smaller the leakage is, the more money that you as a CEO are working so hard to generate, the
right,
leads you're trying to generate, the sales you're trying to generate, those actually get to stay in the bucket because they aren't leaking out of the process.
and every dollar you save is a dollar to your bottom line.
And that is brilliant, right? Like you've already paid to acquire that dollar. You've
Right,
already generated
right,
that client. You've already generated that lead. They could leak out if your systems are sloppy, or they could stay in the ecosystem. If they stay and if the process keeps them, then that is straight profit.
profit, right, and see, the purpose of business is to make a profit,
It is.
okay? It ain't to create jobs, it's to create financial freedom for you, the owner. Okay. And you want to have a life, which goes back to stop doing minutia, right? How
Yes.
you
Yes.
know,
100%.
because I what did Tony Robbins calls it? A lot of times we're the artist
Mm,
and we just want to be the artist, but
yep.
somebody's got to operate the thing you built.
Yes.
And
100%.
that's what I hear. So
Yep.
let's go optimization because that
Okay.
sounds like that's how what I would describe
Yes.
operations.
Yep.
So a couple of things that one, two, three things that entrepreneurs miss that they could get better on that they could.
Mm,
I'm looking at my business and here's
yep.
big leaks that you see out there.
Yes. Okay, great. So, a couple of ones that come to mind. The first one is that actually entrepreneurs only see money leaking out of the business, and what they miss is time and energy. So, really quick to back up, Curtis, I define operations as any action required across a business to optimize a company's ROI on its time, energy, money, and human potential.
Okay.
These are four core resources that go to work in the business every day. The job of operations is to get the most out of what you've got. And so money is key, right? Like,
Right.
yes, your operator should be looking at the P&L, canceling subscriptions when you no longer need them, and making sure that, the company is staying profitable. Everybody gets that. Everybody agrees. What the great operators should also be looking at is how is our team using their time ineffectively? How is my CEO using their time ineffectively? Why are they spending hours in Slack? Why are they spending hours doing low value activities, right?
Mm,
These
mhm.
are cracks in the bucket. If you as a CEO are spending your time doing like $10 an hour tasks when you could be doing $100 an hour tasks, that is very active waste, right? Like
Mm.
that is
Yeah.
opportunity cost. That's revenue that you're not able to generate for your business because you're too stuck in the weeds doing small things that aren't worth your time. And so I would say that the number one gap that CEOs miss is that they're so focused on the money that they're willing to do anything to try and grab an extra dollar off of the table
Right.
without realizing that it is costing their business way more than a dollar for them to be running around doing everything reactive to their team, reactive to their clients, and not actually driving the company forward.
So I love that, right? And so I'm gonna stay on the
Yep.
theme of getting out of the minutia,
Yep.
basically.
Yep.
And because I experienced that, like, so I in financial services, I'm doing this paperwork thinking like this is what I'm supposed to do.
Right.
I hired my first VA like 2 years ago,
Yep.
and within 90 days, I had like literally tripled my production.
Yes.
And that was not a cost. It cost me because I had to pay them, but it was really an investment,
Yes.
in my business. And
Exactly.
and so I think that one, people look at how I can't afford to, because I was like, I can't afford to hire help.
Yep.
And if you start to look at the business, like I teach our clients, your business is your number one asset,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And so instead of, to your point, what typical people in the financial industry would do, they want you to put money in cash balance plans and solo 401ks and send money away from the business.
Yes.
I want you to store capital and begin to look at, to your point, like those four levers. Like when you
Yeah.
said that, I was like, I had a
That made
picture
sense.
of, okay, look, here are the areas in my business that we can break down, where we can, we already made the dial, we already have a client. How do we service them? And so so I said all this to say, because I get you now, you get me fired up. So now start talking that. My head is about to explode here. But how do we scale? How do we scale our time? And then
Yeah.
looking at that, like, what are other things like that am I missing? Because it was funny when
Yeah.
I was reading your thing, I was like, do I have operations? What am I missing? So I
Yeah.
started thinking
Totally.
about
Totally.
my little business with a team of four,
Yep.
you know,
Yeah.
and because I was thinking about big business operations, but when you say startups, no, these people are like,
Yep.
how many, like when you, the startup people, how many people are average in their operations? I know you got bigger companies, but
Sure.
what would you
Yeah.
say from what to what?
Yeah. So, we work with clients to help place or train operators. So,
Okay.
generally, we're working with
Okay.
that very first operational hire. Our clients can have team sizes of anywhere from 5 all the way up to, 20 before
Hmm.
they decide it's time to bring in that very first hire. I
Hmm.
recommend closer to 5, right? Like, I recommend that operation you're getting probably pretty close, Curtis, in your business, where the amount of, like, complexity, again, the amount of leakage flowing out of the bucket through little inefficiencies in time and energy and money and human potential across your team of 4 is costing you enough that if you had a dedicated person with a dedicated lens around how do we just minimize all of this inefficiency, how do we close all of these gaps, the amount of water they would keep in the bucket, the amount of profit that they would bring to your bottom line is probably ROI positive compared to their salary, right? So you asked the question around like, how do we think about optimizing time? I think that that's a brilliant way to be thinking about this, right? So let me give you an example. I was working with a client the other week who was really, really resistant to letting go of client invoicing and billing. He's like, Jhana, it only takes 2 hours a week. I like to see the money come in. The clients respond to me. I think that this is a good use of my time. So I said, okay, let's plug this in really quick. How much does your company pay you for your time versus how much could they pay an administrative VA or an executive assistant for the exact same task? And how much would your company save just in pure labor costs? How much would it save? Right. And that was like, I don't know, I'm making numbers up now. It was like 15K or something over the course
Hmm.
of a year.
Hmm.
Okay, that's not massive, $15,000. That's leakage, but it's not terrible. Where it really hits the road is that we're talking about 2 hours a week, every single week for an entire year. And so the real ROI of delegating that task is what could you, Mr. CEO, do with an extra 100 hours this year? What marketing funnel would you build? What strategic partnership would you form? What ads would you launch? How many clients could you close? How much more growth would be brought into the business with 100 extra hours this year? That number was like 50 to $100,000, right? So that's the real ROI. Curtis,
Yeah.
you said something brilliant, which is your company is your greatest asset to you. I would say the reverse is also true, which is you are the greatest asset to your company.
Yes.
Your time, your
Yes.
energy, your creativity, your innovation, your growth driving activities is the number one asset that your business has to work with. If you are eating up that asset, sending client invoices, answering client FAQs, answering the same team questions every day, then you are wasting, you're misinvesting that asset. It can't generate the amount of revenue that it could otherwise if it's being taken up and eaten up by all of this low value activity.
Oh, that's so brilliant. I had a mentor say, if you want to make $1 million, that's like $500 an hour, right?
Right.
So anything you touch that ain't worth $500 an hour,
What are you doing?
what are you doing? You're losing
Yep.
money,
Yep.
right? And so
Exactly.
even on your personal life,
Yep.
cooking,
Yep.
washing cars,
Yep.
mowing the
100%.
lawn. So
Yep.
I got my wife on board with this. Listen,
It's
I
it there's many solutions to it, right? Like, for
right,
me,
right,
it's
right,
like anything mechanical. My
right,
boyfriend is super mechanically oriented. He's brilliant at fixing cars. I'm not gonna change my oil. That makes no
right,
sense for me to
right.
do, right? It makes
Even
way
if
more
you
sense for
could
him to
do
do.
it, it doesn't make sense to do it,
I'm
right?
capable of
So
it.
I had a mentor, Tom Hopkins said this one time. He said, listen, unless it's therapy, hire somebody. And I said, you done told that to the wrong person, as lazy as I am, right? So so
I
now
love that.
I work
I
on
love
making
that.
money just so I don't have to do, oh, we got this guy, he's fixing
Yeah,
something at the house. Okay,
yeah.
great. I'm going to a movie.
I
Just
will give I will give one more framework to your audience, because it's clear
please.
that you, and I imagine your audience, are very kind of like analytical, kind of numbers driven people, right? So if we're talking about assets and the language that we all speak and understand here, right? You're the highest asset to your business. Your
Yep.
business is your highest asset. Within your business, your time is also an asset, and it is specifically an appreciating asset. The
Hmm.
things that you do when you're small, like sending client invoices. Well, let's be honest. Like, what could you do with an hour of your time? What is the most amount of value you could drive with an hour of your time? With 1 hour, you could hop on a sales call. You could close a new client. Maybe that's a couple extra $1,000, let's say. Okay.
Yep.
So
Yep.
your time, like, and the potential value and the potential output generated with an hour of your time is a couple $1,000s. Pretty good. But once you grow, once you scale, what could you do with an hour of your time? You could make a product improvement that increases your average lifetime value across 100 clients and brings an extra 100K into the business. You could form a strategic partnership that drives the next $1 million into your company. Your time, as your company grows, becomes more valuable. It is an appreciating asset. And so the things that used to make sense for you to do when your time was not worth that much, you have to be continuously reassessing that, because your time is becoming more and more valuable the bigger your business grows. The things that used to make sense no longer make sense,
Hmm.
because it is costing your business money, because your time is now more valuable than it used to be. Does that make sense?
It makes complete sense. It's funny because I have been thinking about this for about 6 months with
Mm,
me, because we've had growth, and it's like, all right, I am busy, my
yep,
calendar is full.
yep,
And then a mentor looked at my calendar and said, listen, you can't, I was reading 10X usually and 2X, and says, you
yeah,
can't
there you go.
grow with your time packed this tight,
Yep,
right?
right,
And how do I, like with the 10X thing is like, okay, it's not working 10 times more. It's rid of 80% of what you're doing and focus on the top 20%. I
yep,
haven't figured out how to do that yet, but I am thinking
mm,
about it. And then I'm
yep,
going, all right, could if I had what would an operator do? I was
yes,
really having this thought, and then what would I do? Because I still have to make it rain to pay for all this stuff, right?
100%.
And but
Yeah,
could I make it rain even more? I mean, I think
yeah,
these are the um conversations that business owners are having within themselves, that
yeah,
if y'all are listening to this. And I sometimes you have to get out. You don't, like, if you don't, first of all, you can't hang around people with jobs and ask them what they think.
sure.
Okay.
You're not gonna have
And
the best insights for you.
right, right, right. So you
Yeah,
have to get around, like, listening to Jhana. You got to start to think what she's giving you. Like, I didn't really think about it as an appreciating asset.
mm,
And then you actually expanded my vocabulary or my thought process around operations, because I thought it was this little thing. It's really
yep,
everything.
yep, yep,
And so that was
yep.
yeah, I got it in my notes. So that's a thank you for, if I don't hear nothing else. But now I gotta really follow you. So is there anything else that
Yeah,
you like to bring up in terms of a CEO optimizing their time, like a maybe one or two tactical things that we
yeah.
can give them to walk away with, I should try this?
Yeah, I'm hearing you ask 2 questions, Curtis, right? Which is number 1, let's say that I get all of this time back. How should I be using it in order
Yep.
to 10x my growth? How should I as a CEO be reallocating it?
Yep.
That's a great question. And then the second is like what specifically is an operator doing to helping me get all of that time back, right? So let's answer that question first, which is like, for example,
Yes,
I have an
that's
operator.
what I meant, Jhana.
Yeah.
That was good.
Okay, cool. Glad I'm answering the right question.
Yes.
Um, so for example, I have like our core offer is an operations coaching program, right?
Okay.
And the very first week that somebody enters the program, we have them run a time audit, not on themselves, that happens next, but actually
Mhm.
on their CEO. So what I just talked about of like your time being an appreciating asset. We have a tool, we have a framework for helping the operator quantify all of the things that a CEO is doing, where they're spending their time, and what is actually moving the needle versus what is the low value, low leverage tasks that's just eating up all of their time and preventing them from being creative. So we build that time audit around the CEO and then look at that data with the operator and their job. You ask, like, what does an operator do? Very simply, their job is to take the bottom half of that list, all the low value activities that you're doing, and find a way to automate, delegate, or streamline those activities. That's operations, right? Could this be done with an automation? Could this be done with AI? Could this be done by another team member? Could this be done with a better system, right? Their unique expertise is to know how to answer that question and to execute on that. The result is that our CEOs within the first 3 to 6 months should be getting 10 to 20 hours back every single week of free space because the answer to your second question, Curtis, of like, what should I be doing? Unfortunately,
Mhm.
I don't have an answer for you because I don't know your business, right?
Right.
But that
Right.
is your job as a CEO, your privilege as a CEO is to ask and answer that question. How do I drive the next wave of growth to my business? What does 10x growth look like? What is a 10x activity that I could be reallocating my time towards? The challenge most CEOs find themselves in is that they don't have enough free time to be creative, to
Right.
think
Right.
deeply, to think boldly. They are so busy running the day to day that their company suffers because it suffers from their lack of creativity because they don't have the energy and they don't have the bandwidth. They're just
Mhm.
too busy keeping the trains running on time. So your operator's job and how they drive growth to the business ultimately is they free up your time so that you can turn around and do what CEOs do and figure it out and drive the next wave of growth into the company. And you wouldn't have been able to do that, or you currently can't if you are too busy running the day to day, you know, burning the candle at both ends with no energy or creativity left over to figure out what's next.
That is so true. Like you have to you have to get it out of the business to see it as a this thing outside
Yes.
of you.
Yes.
And if you're in, this is an old Dunkin' Donuts commercial, making the donuts all the time,
Yep.
you don't have time to think. Even though you're productive and you're getting a lot of clients,
Yep.
you have to. How do you grow? You got to think about growth. You have to,
Yep.
you know, imagination. But if you're so busy working, you can't imagine. You can't engineer
Yes.
the growth. That makes so much sense. And when does I guess you help them see this, like, so let's say the operate I'm the CEO or I'm the owner,
Hmm.
operator.
Yep.
At what point am I reaching the point where, okay, I need to replace myself? Basically, that's what you're saying?
Right, in the operator
In the
side of that.
operating part of the business. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. So this will depend on the specific business model, right?
Okay.
Some
Hmm.
models are able to last longer than others, depending on how operationally complex they are. For example, in like online service-based companies, which is who we work with a lot of the time,
Hmm.
generally they're looking at making that first operational hire or internally promoting somebody into the operations role when they have between 5 to 10 people on their team. And generally that corresponds with between 50 to 100K per month in incoming revenue, right?
Okay.
So
Okay.
right around that revenue range is where, again, things are just getting chaotic enough that there's enough leakage out of the bucket. You're losing enough time, enough energy, enough money that it is worth your investment to pay for somebody's salary to come in and keep all of that water inside the bucket.
I've seen that with indirectly, as you say that, with I was in the Russell Brunson, right?
Yep.
Where he said, look, I'm not I suck at running companies,
Yes.
right? And he brought in people
Yes.
so he could stay on the creative side and keep
Yes.
growing. And he's,
Yes.
I've seen that. So just watching people from afar
Yeah.
resonates because I've seen this language of
Yeah.
people doing that. That is awesome.
And the reality is,
Um,
Chris, like when you study some of these big players and they're launching businesses all the time, they're launching ventures all the time. Almost always, the very first hire they bring in is an operator, right? When it's just us and we're starting and we're
yeah.
small, we don't have enough going on that we need an operator to be that very first hire. But if you look at like the top players, the operator is a need to have very first member of the team because they recognize that if I upfront the investment in this person, they're going to turn around and they're going to build the systems. They're going to hire the rest of the team. They're going to manage this project into reality because that's not my genius, right? My job isn't to turn this into a reality. My job is to have the idea and then bring the right group of people together to turn it into a reality. An operator is the ringleader when it comes to executing that and making it tangible and
And now your business is a sellable asset. So I
correct.
was talking to this guy, I got this business. I had a $1.5 billion exit, and he's got this other thing, and he's not doing the work. It's like something, a pharmaceutical, something or other. But he's like,
Mhm.
oh yeah, about 5 years we're going to exit with 6 million. So I'm seeing that. I'm sure he's not doing the operating.
No, no, because if you want to exit your business one day, no investor wants to
Right.
buy
They
a
don't want to
job.
buy a sole proprietorship. They don't, or like a
They don't
key
wanna
man
buy a
business.
9 to 5.
Right. They
Nobody
don't want to
wants
buy. I already have a job. I
that.
don't need to buy a
Yeah,
job. I want to
exactly.
buy a thing that works
Yeah,
that's going to throw off capital. And
correct.
so the funny thing is, even if you don't want to sell it, you don't, if you get a good operator, you don't have to sell it because you're not
Nope,
working that hard anymore. Right. So
correct,
you don't have to retire.
correct.
You just can stay there and keep collecting the money because the business is your, I
Yeah,
don't really believe retirement, but your retirement plan because you've got this asset that's throwing off hundreds of thousands of
yeah.
dollars.
The
There's no need to
reality is,
retire.
Curtis, many of our clients work with us and they come to us from a place of being like, "Man, maybe I should just sell this thing because I'm just so burnt out because I just hate it now. Like, I hate having to work these long hours and not see a lot of return on that. I'm frustrated by all the stupid stuff that fills up my day to day. I don't like it. Maybe I should just get out." And the proposal that we give to them is, "Here's how operations could help you build a business that
Mhm,
is sellable
mhm,
but that you love so much that you don't wanna sell it, right?
right,
Our job is to make that decision very tough for you because what do you want? Do you want a, 5 to 10 hour a week passive cash flow machine lifestyle company, or do you want this massive sellable asset? Our goal is to help you earn the right to that choice. But the reality is that most of our clients start in the opposite choice, which is how do I get out of this? Do I just
mhm.
burn it to the ground or do I try and sell it off for parts or do I continue to stay in it but burn myself out? And that is the ugly space where clients find themselves if they haven't put the right operations in place earlier.
Wow, that's fantastic. So, Jhana, what tell them how to, well, let me ask you this. This is my catch-all to make sure I didn't miss anything. What didn't I ask you that I should have asked you that you wouldn't talk about?
I think the one nuance we should add in is like what kind of operator do I need to hire? Right? We've been using this really generic blank term.
Right.
We've talked about when to bring this person in, but somebody might be listening right now and say this doesn't make any sense because aren't COOs like 200K and how could I afford to bring that person in if my company is only making 50K a month, right?
Right.
Cool. Let's answer that question. Operations, just like any other role, any other department, has levels. It has entry level, it has middle management, and it has executive. Because operations is not super well understood, the only job title we think of when we hear operations is COO. We assume that if I'm bringing in an operator, it has to be a COO. And aren't people who call themselves COO really expensive? Yes, they are. The great news is you don't need a COO. Probably nobody listening here needs a COO, right? If you're a small startup company, if you're doing less than or you're around seven figures, you need an entry level operator. I would call that person an ops manager or an ops coordinator, right? That person is in like US domestic prices is closer to like 60K a year, way more affordable. And are they actually the right fit for the size of business that you have and the complexity of operations that you have? As
Mhm.
you grow into like that multi seven figure range, then we get into that middle management tier that's ahead of operations. And then when you're like, you're chasing eight figures, you're pushing eight figures, then we can talk about a COO. So I want to give everybody here the permission that like you can bring in an operator way sooner than you think you can, because you aren't actually looking for that, 200K, 10 years of experience COO. That's not the person your business needs yet.
Right. That's brilliant, because you can grow, like you can grow into this. You start
Correct.
somewhere, because if you don't get the entry level one, you probably won't make the second level,
Yep,
right? And
exactly.
then it's really not a cost because you've grown your revenue. So and you wouldn't have grown your revenue if you didn't have it. As
Correct.
long as you're seeing this
Correct.
as an investment and not a cost,
Correct.
investment in your
Yep.
growth, investment in your peace of mind, free
Yep.
time.
Yep. And that person can also grow, right? Like, again, we do operations coaching. We take
Hmm.
people from, I have no direct experience and no training in operations. And
Hmm.
with the right coaching, they can become a head of operations COO. I've seen it happen again and again. So it's about investing into the level of operator that your business needs today, finding the right person, that right fit second in command, and then leveling up with them and allowing them to evolve and grow to continue to meet the needs of your evolving and growing business.
How should they so who should be, well, one, how can they follow you?
Okay.
I was gonna say, who should be reaching out to you if they're hearing this?
Yep.
So you kind of describe your ideal person, and hey, look, we could probably help you. You should give us a call.
Yep.
But if they because I hear this even for people, like I've got a lot of real estate people that have hundreds of properties and trying to
Yep.
figure out how to run it.
Oh,
I
yeah.
hear the principles that you talked about can help them. They're just
Yep.
not looking at their business, and they're up to their eyeballs and stuff and managing different teams.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I think it's the language and the thought process works, because business is business.
Yep.
You know,
Business is
you
business.
have a specialty, but business is business. So if
Yep.
y'all say, but my business is different, then you're lazy because you're not thinking. All right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
tell
I
tell
mean,
them what you want, though.
we work with real estate people in the real estate niche and real estate space
Do
all the
you?
time, right? We do.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, business is business, money
Yeah.
is money, people are people. So long
Yeah.
as those things don't change, operations is going to be operations,
Okay.
and the same best practices will apply. In terms of, if you're listening to this right now and you say, I don't know if I need support on this. Yes, I absolutely need support on this. Or I just want to learn more. The best way to learn about us and what we do is our website. That's spyglassops.com. If you want to just learn more about operations before making that decision, follow me on social. The Jhana Li, like THE, Jhana Li, on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube. I drop free trainings every single week into my social media channels, because I genuinely believe that the educational component around operations is the necessary first step before anybody can or will or should invest in operations, right? Like, don't invest into a person if you don't yet know or understand what they should be doing and why they're going to drive business, like growth to your business. So we start there. That's on social. If you're already convinced, grab us on our website, and I'm happy to set up a chat with you and the team.
All right. There we go. So folks, take action. I think that she gave you a lot of what I call writer downers. So I would go back through like I am, and you should have I would take notes, but I was trying to listen. I was just trying to, be engaged with you talk about. I got to go back, and I see a page of notes, just the outlining of a thought process
Mm,
and how to work on your business. So if you step back, look, my business is my number one asset. How do I fix that? How do I buy my
mm.
life back? How do I
Yep.
create financial independence
Yep.
so that I'm independent of the business
Yep.
and it's still running? That's the goal. See, people don't know it's hard to reach a target you don't have, and that's the target. You want to become financially free.
Yep.
And even if you sell the business, you're still, see, this is my job, John. I said, look, even if you stop doing the business, you're still supposed to be rich, right? So I want you building money, outside the business too. But that is, I'm so glad I followed back up with you, John. This
Yeah.
was
This
fantastic.
was a great conversation. Thank you so much, Curtis.
Yes, my pleasure. So, listen, I thank you for your time
Yeah.
today, and I think this is maybe one of many, because I thought about like three other things that I'll, I'll bring you
It
back
sounds like
on.
you and I got more to talk about for sure.
Yeah, we do, we do. So guys, go, and we're gonna put all her stuff in the show notes, and hopefully you got a little bit smarter on this interview today. And so, because our goal is to help teach you principles that help you become and remain, more importantly, financially free. Okay. And your business is the engine that drives that car. All right. So, and we just wanted to fix that for you. So Jhana Li, thank you so much for coming on the
You're very
Practical Wealth
welcome.
Show.
Thanks for having me. It's been great.
All right. Yes, it has. My pleasure. Are you ready to take control of your financial future? Hi there. I'm Curtis May. and I'm here to help you achieve your financial goals. Do you want to be the customer bank, or would you like to be the bank? Subscribe to our channel for regular updates, valuable insights from experts in different fields. You know, the name of the game, guys, is cash flow. Okay. You can't eat equity. And our goal is to help you build, we call it being a cash flownaire, which is passive income twice your expenses outside of Wall Street where possible, right? Which is, it is quite possible. And so if you're interested in learning more about our services, here is what I challenge you to do, or I invite you to do, I won't say challenge, is to take our financial freedom quiz. See where you are, okay? Don't wait any longer to take control of your financial future. Let's begin this journey together.